Hi, you're listening to Art Hard, a podcast about what's hard about art.
I'm Fiona, a layabout with a law degree.
And I'm Jess, an illustrator with birds on the brain.
We're going to chat about adding art to our lives and nurturing creativity.
Here we go.
Art hard, art hard, art hard, art hard, art too cheap to buy jingle. Art hard, art hard, art too cheap to buy jingle. Hey, so this is it. Hard, art. Okay, shall we just jump in?
Yeah, let it rip.
Right. I hate that.
You hate letting it rip?
Yes. All right, so...
How was your week? How's it going today?
You know what? My day... So it's 4:20, blaze it. And I've been awake. I've been awake for 4 hours. I woke up at noon today, which I never do. Like, I'm usually up between 6 and 7, so... But I haven't had caffeine for the last 2 days, so I slept 14 hours last night is what I'm getting at here.
Wow.
So I, for the first time in a long time, I actually feel like well rested. So
wow.
I know. I feel kind of like ready to seize the day. So my day's been really short so far, but I'm good.
Awesome.
How about you? You're cranky, right?
Yes. Thank you for asking.
Oh.
Today's been okay. What is my problem today? My problem today, like, usually when I do morning pages, I dive into something interesting, or like I develop some sort of idea and I just sort of let it flow almost. Mm-hmm. I hate the word flow. I hate letting it flow. But it just flow. Like but it feels like natural and it like comes out. And then today it was I think like I was really burnt out this week because I really pushed hard on one big project. I pushed hard on like a big writing piece. And so that was a couple days ago, and I'm just realizing how burnt out I am from what seems like not that much work.
Are you talking about the bio?
Yeah. Like,
yeah, okay.
It was like, it turned out really good and I was really proud of it. Thank you for editing it.
Oh, no worries.
But man, it just crushed me. So today in my morning pages, they were so self-analytical, almost, like saying a lot of things that I don't like or that I'm worried about. Like, it was a lot of like worries today instead of ideas, which like ideas energize me, and then worries, they just spiral into more worries, as we know about worries. So I feel like it's funny, like in the morning pages, I can tell if a day is a wash.
Oh, no.
It's like, I feel like I should be able to turn it around, but I think maybe I just need to rest, so.
I have a confession to make.
Mm-hmm.
I only did 1.5 pages of morning pages today.
Whoa.
And I did them at like 3:00. And I feel really bad.
Why? Why do you feel bad?
Like I let Julia down. I let you down. I'm letting everybody down. Because you're supposed to do them when you wake up. And I had such a weird day today because I never normally sleep until noon, that I just woke up and I was like, wait, what do I even do in this life? So I just like forgot all my normal morning things and I didn't do it.
Whoa.
And then I remembered at 3:00 and I was like, but and then I was like, no, I have to like prepare for the podcast, so I stopped. But yeah, that's the first day that I haven't actually done 3 pages, but maybe I'll finish them afterwards.
Well, that's interesting. I wonder like what it'll be like to finish them afterwards, because I've done them later too and felt like it sort of changes them, but like whatever, like tomorrow's a new day, like
and it's better than not doing them at all,
because I feel like
I missed, it's not the morning anymore. I can't do my morning pages, so I might as well not do them.
Yeah, I think like they do feel different. Like they feel like it doesn't have the same effect almost.
They hit different.
Yeah.
In the afternoon.
Yeah. But I feel like it's good that you did them. You're absolved of it doesn't like
I feel like I just went to confession and it absolved me. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Daddy.
You're welcome, my son.
I do have thoughts that I could say about episode 1, I think.
All right, hit it.
I really liked episode 1. not to be like, we're so good at this, but like I listened to it a bunch of times when I was editing it, and I wasn't really paying attention to like what we were saying other than for like, does this flow like logically?
Mm-hmm.
And then and I liked it fine, and I was like, this is I'm okay with putting this out into the world. And then I took a few days off, and then last night I listened to it as I was falling asleep, and so it had been like a couple days, I had fresh ears, and I like laughed out loud. I thought it was interesting. Yeah, there were a lot of parts that were really funny to me, and I thought I really liked it, and I'm really excited for how we're gonna, because I think we're just gonna keep improving, and I think that that's, we're starting from a really good place. And I know that you had some feelings about it, but
I guess in terms of like my feelings about it, I think I have this really deep belief that it's important, which I'm like picking up from The Artist's Way, like it's important to just move forward instead of obsessing and focusing on mistakes, because if you move forward you can like learn from your mistakes when you look at it later, but like if you get stuck, then you'll just be stuck. Like my first inclination was like, oh god, like we have to redo this, like my audio is so bad, and like I have this problem that is like a problem in my life. Like when Greg listened to the podcast, because I said like, oh yeah, like I interrupted Fiona a lot when she was about to say something really vulnerable or like really important. And I get distracted, and like look at that bird, or like, oh, there's a boat coming. There's a boat coming, by the way, and I held myself back from saying it. But like I said, like, man, I really feel like a jerk, like, and Greg was like, that's just you, like you do that all the time, like that's not just like that's not just like you on a. So I think it's like drawing attention to things that would be really like helpful for me to work on, because to see yourself from the outside is really painful sometimes.
Yes, totally. And I think it's so interesting that like the things that really bothered you, like the interruptions, were what I really liked about the first podcast. Like what you saw as something, oh shit, we got to do it over. I was like, no, this to me makes it really like naturalistic and authentic, and I didn't mind the interruptions one bit. I thought it was really cute that a bird came over to you. Like, I thought it was, like, perfect. It was, like, fine to me. And so I was, like, actually quite surprised when you were like, oh, no. Oh, no, I fucked it up.
I did some thinking about that, like, in morning pages about why. And the reason that it came up was because I made a post the other day, and I had said, like, I was kind of riffing on Julia Cameron's idea of, like, looking back on your life from being 80 years old, like, what do you think? And then my mom had said, like, I had written basically that. And then my mom was like, it's just so clear that the perspective is from someone who thinks that 80 is the end of life. Like, she didn't say that, but like,
yeah.
And like, so I think that sort of self-consciousness around maybe interrupting is because like my mom has always been right on me about how certain things are perceived, or like being, I guess, inconsiderate. Like it was it's very shameful to be rude, or like very shameful to not see someone else's perspective, or to just be so self-absorbed. It's very shameful to be so self-absorbbed. So I think that's why that came out so strong.
Yeah.
But that said, like, I think we should keep it and just keep going.
Yeah, I think so too. Because like, yeah, I was surprised by your reaction, and then I was like, oh no, maybe we just like shouldn't do this. Like, what if Jess is right? Like, what if it's really bad? What if I'm deluding myself? And what if so here's and this is what comes out for me, is my thing is my fear, my greatest fear is that I'm actually like a fucking megalomaniac, and like I'm just obsessed with myself. And I think there's a tiny bit of truth to that, but like the fear that I had was like, what if I just like it because it's me?
Oh my god, I think that all the time too.
Really?
Yeah, like, what if I only like this because like I am just enchanted by my own
the sound of my
Self.
own voice,
The
of
sound of
my
yeah.
own opinions. Like, of course I like my own opinions, you
Of
know?
course,
Like,
yeah.
so I had that fear where I was like, I need other people to listen to it because I can't tell.
Yeah.
I can't tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was my my feelings about week 1. It was quite a turbulent week for us because of week 1, I think. Or for me at least, because I spent like 6 hours trying to like edit it down to be something listenable
and you did such a good job.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think it still needs a bit of work before we can call it done, but it will definitely go smoother in the future. And yeah, I think it'll be good.
And I think it's like I so strongly believe that you just have to jump in. Like, I so strongly believe that you can't wait until it's perfect before you share it.
Yeah.
And so that sort of beats out my feelings of badness or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, whatever feelings I have, it's more important to just do it.
Exactly. Like, we did talk last week about, like, the importance of doing things poorly, and not every bird is going to be a good bird. And not every podcast is going to be, you know, a professionally done podcast.
Right. And it's hard, even if it's funny that, like, even if you believe that, it's still painful. It's still hard all the time.
It's so painful.
Yeah.
It's the worst. Like, I don't want to put out anything bad.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just have to. My goodness. So can I tell you about my adventures in art this week?
Yes, please.
I'm so ashamed.
What?
Okay,
what
let me
happened?
just tell you. Oh, okay. So I didn't tell you about this throughout the week because I was like, I want to tell her on the podcast.
Okay.
So I was browsing Etsy, as you do. And I was like, oh my god, those are some cute polymer clay earrings. And they were like $20 to $30 each, and I was like, bitch, I can do that. Like, I can make a little shape out of clay, and I can super glue a post to it.
Okay, and so far I'm on board.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can do that. So I was like, I really want to do this. And I went on Amazon, and I ordered a bunch of different colors of polymer clay, and I ordered fishhook earring backs and post earring backs, and I ordered little, you know, those little loop chains that hold the pieces together of an earring.
Wow.
And it was like $60, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't spend this much money on probably, let's be realistic, 3 sets of earrings. And I was like, you know what? This week is about trying something new and being creative, and it's an art and or craft, and I'm just gonna like do it. So I bit the bullet and I pressed order.
Okay.
And my stuff came the next day. And I was like playing around with the clay, and I was realizing like, oh shit, I don't have what was it that I was missing? I don't have big enough jump rings, and I don't have enough white clay, and I don't have the right type of glue, and I don't have the right type of sealant. So I made another order of a whole bunch more stuff, Jess. I spent another $60.
Okay.
And then I went all the way to Home Depot. I stood in a line outside of Home Depot. I got like a floor varnish that you can use to like varnish the pieces. Anyway, my point is I spent, I'm going to say probably $250.
Wow.
On clay stuff. And I was so excited at the beginning, and then the more money that I spent on it, the more I was like, oh, these have to be good.
Whoa.
So, and I realized, I was like, this is my pattern. Like, this is what I do when it comes to like having an idea for like an art thing, is I will research the perfect, you know, watercolor paints. Like, what are the best watercolor paints that I can get? And I'll get them. And, you know, these paintbrushes are kind of shitty. What are the best paintbrushes I can get? And then I'll get the paintbrushes, and I'll like dig myself into this hole of like literal debt.
Wow.
I mean, not debt, but like I'll spend a ton of money. And then I'll feel like the money that I spent means that there's so much riding on it. Like, I have to glean so much enjoyment from this experience because it cost me $250. And then I was making some earrings, and I was trying things out, and they were all breaking because I couldn't calibrate like the baking temperature properly. And I was like really upset because I spent all this money. And I was like, okay, well, I spent all this money. Like, I have to make earrings and sell them. Like, I have to put up an Etsy shop. I have to
Wow.
XYZ. So if I'm going to sell them, I can't use these shitty nickel earring backs. I have to get, like, you know, I have to get the nickel-free ones. Like, and so I bought even more stuff. Jess, it was like I spiraled this week.
Like, no kidding. Like, you went from, like, I want to make those for myself.
Yes.
I believe that I should, because like Julia Cameron's like, her whole thing is like, you've been denying yourself artistic pleasure, right? And you're like, I think that's true. Like, I'm really proud of you for moving forward and like investing in this thing, and I also see the pattern. Like, and I also like understand the pattern, and I see how it goes from like, I just want to do this for myself to like, okay, this is my new life path.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, well, I guess I'm a jewelry guru now. I guess I'm, you know, like I was like, this is my life now, basically. I just felt so like stuck. I felt so stuck. I was like, I'm going to have to spend the next couple of months using up all this clay to get my money back.
Jeez.
And I still kind of feel that way. And I need, like, that's something that I need to do this week, is to sort of like process how that went for me. And, you know, basically do like what's it called when you like
a retro? Like a
retrospective? Yes, like a behavioral chain analysis. Like, where did this all go wrong for me? Because oh boy. And figure out like how I can balance like gaining pleasure from doing a craft basically with like the feeling that I should be making money off of it. And that's why I sort of wanted to talk about like having hobbies when everyone is saying turn your hobbies into your side hustle, basically, like make money off of your hobbies. And as someone who is making $0.00, it's like I do feel that money pressure a lot in my life, and I feel like I can ill afford $250 on clay and like little earring bits, some of which, by the way, I bought in such a blur. I basically like blacked out and bought a whole bunch of stuff on Amazon, some of which are the wrong thing. So that was a little bit annoying, but like I think that's something that I need to fight against in my own life, is like, if I am gonna put hours into something, it's not because I'm investing for money, it's because I'm investing in myself as a creative person, and I need to balance those two things, because I don't want to feel beholden to all of the craft supplies that I have, right? Like, I don't want those to sit there and with their little mouths say, Fiona, you wasted your money on me, come make it back. 'Cause that's not fun. That's like fear speaking, basically.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of like money shame too. Like, I feel like this is a broader thing than just art supplies. Because like,
oh, totally.
I feel like you buy art supplies for a project and then you have leftover, or you buy art supplies for a project and you never do it. And then you just sort of, like, my whole family is like this. You just like hoard stuff that you don't use right away, and then you use it later. Like, it always comes in handy. Like, that clay is going to come up for you in another way. I'm sure of it, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I don't fault the idea of spending money on art supplies, or spending like buying the best art supplies. Like, I think the best advice for art supplies that I've heard is buy the best thing that you can afford. But the affording part is the key part. I think you have to have some sort of like
income.
Well, no. I'm not saying about income. Like, I think like you should still have budget for like things that are fun,
right? Yeah,
and like investing in yourself. But it seems like the problem was not taking the leap into clay or earrings or anything. Like, it seems like the problem was taking such a huge leap, maybe, instead
Yeah.
of saying like, yeah, I don't know.
And it went from like, I'm gonna, because like I feel like my intentions were pure at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning, I was like, I'm gonna sit at my new little desk and I'm gonna make some cute little clay earrings and I'm gonna wear them around town and be so cute. And then as soon as I sunk a bunch of money into it, that's when the fear and
It like
shame,
triggered.
It triggered, yeah, exactly. This like, yeah, fear
Hmm.
that it's a waste if you don't make money on it.
Right. And like, this better be good.
And so once that fear set in, it was like, you can't make shitty earrings. You have to make them perfectly. They have to be sanded and waxed. They have to be varnished. They have to be tested for strength. They have to be nickel free, right? Like
Jeez.
So it turned from this like wonderful thing into this sort of like horrible experience. But I had an idea.
Okay.
My idea is to just chill with the earrings because they're causing me stress. And I was talking to Tara about it, and I said, like, I was telling her that I was making these earrings, and she was like, oh, I've always wanted to buy polymer clay because there's a certain, like, bodice sculpture that I want. And I was like, I'll do that for you. And so my plan is basically, for the next little while, whatever, I'm going to make a sculpture of Pancake. Or, who is my rabbit, by the way. He's my little bun. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to make a sculpture of Pancake. Like, you can't sell that.
No.
That's priceless.
Yeah, you'd ask millions.
Exactly.
Millions.
Yeah, nobody could afford it, frankly. And so what I'm going to do is make things for people that I know. And like I lived basically for free at my aunt's house, so I'm going to sculpt her a little sculpture of her dog, her beloved dog. So like I'm going to give myself like projects to do that aren't things that you can sell, and I'm hoping that will sort of like direct me away from these like spirally thoughts about, oh, this isn't good enough because nobody would buy this. What do you think about that solution? It
sounds promising. Like, I think making things like for people, like gifts and like cards are such a good way to derail that sort of thing.
Yeah. I have a lot of feelings about art and money that probably I shouldn't get into now.
I think that's a super common block.
Yeah. Art and money is probably something that we could get into in a whole other discussion. But yeah, just to wrap this up, I had a bit of a week, but I think I know how to turn it around.
Wow.
So I'll let you know next week how it goes.
Amazing. I'm really proud of you for taking that sort of investment step into something that you thought was interesting.
Yeah.
And then
thank you.
Like, even if you have to like back it off and process it a little bit, you know, like I feel like it's still moving forward. It also kind of strikes me like there's this idea in tech and probably other industries of like a minimum viable product where you like,
what does that mean?
MVP. It's a way of testing something out, like making the smallest possible thing you can do to validate it, basically. So just to see maybe if people want it, or like in the case of like arts and crafts, maybe your MVP for earrings would be like buying just enough to make like one pair sort of thing, because maybe it turns out that you don't even like it. Like, what's the minimum investment? What's the smallest thing you can do to test it out? And like maybe the first step for that isn't the most expensive, best quality art supplies. Maybe it's like, although like dollar store watercolor paint is really difficult to paint with. But I mean, to be fair though, like dollar store acrylic paint can get you a long way. But yeah, just the idea of starting small, I guess. Yeah. Before you invest too much time and money.
Yeah. I definitely like accidentally scaled up really quickly.
I feel like that is so not just you. Like I don't want you to feel like you're the only one. But like I feel like there's a reason why like MVP is like a term. It's super common for people with apps, or like when you're building an app, to like think of, oh, like when we have 100 customers, or like we're just going to start and we're just going to get a bunch of customers and we have to build all our features first, and like we can't even launch and test whether people want our product until we can, I don't know. I don't even want to try to think of a sample app. I don't even want to think of an example, but like, you know, like we can't launch until we're all the way there, and you got to launch early before we. Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't properly listening because I freaked out because I thought that my thing wasn't recording, but it is.
Okay.
But I trust that what you said was interesting and relevant.
Great,
so let's
thanks.
just keep
I was
going.
talking to you, you know, like I wasn't.
I know.
Just trying to...
I know, but I was like, oh my god, there's no, you know, like when the little shape shows up, I was like, oh fuck, there's no shape showing up. But then I realized it's because I wasn't fucking talking. So that was just that just happened. Anyway, so I don't know how to.
You don't know how to respond to that?
I don't know what you said.
Okay, whatever.
Sorry.
Let's just move on.
Okay. Okay. Did you have any significant realizations this week?
So I'm on week 8, and I just read it, and it's a lot about it's like recovering from loss almost. That's one of the topics, and then there's like that she kind of talks about like making excuses almost. Oh man, like okay, so there's this one line from a film director, and she says like, or he said, in order to catch the ball, you have to want to catch the ball.
Whoa.
I know. But she talks about like when like all your doors are closed and you like are looking around and there's no doors, there's always like one that you refuse to go through, I guess is what she's kind of saying.
Okay.
I'm like still processing it because I just read it yesterday.
Okay.
Okay, so a lot of this chapter was like talking about limitations that we think we have, and like opportunities that are lost, or like doors that are shut, and how we spend a lot of time asking like, why me, when really we should be asking like, what next?
When you say why me, you mean like what does she mean by that, or what do you mean?
I think she means like there was a section in there about like being too old to start writing, and like her examples were like, if I were a young if I were a young actor, I would do this, but like but I'm not, so like you know, and like you're never like in the window, like you're either like you're like, oh, like I'm too young, or like I'm too old, or like if I had access to such and such a thing. And I was like, like thinking about this, and I was like, oh man, like I can think of a bunch of my friends who feel that way about stuff, and I could not apply it to myself because I'm like, oh, like I draw and I write, but then I started realizing like it was like the difference between like looking at a glass of water and drinking it almost, and then I like drank the water and I was like, oh my god. Like I like this, it's like that all the time. Like I think like, oh, I'll never be like so and so as an illustrator, whatever. But like the biggest thing I realized was actually about music for me. Like when I was a kid, I played classical piano when I was like little, like in this very, very small town. Like there was one piano teacher, and so I took piano lessons, and I always begrudged the fact that it was classical music. Like I didn't want to play classical music. I wanted somebody, I'm like, oh, like if only somebody had given me an opportunity to learn how to improvise, or like to play jazz, or to play pop music, like something that was interesting, like, or if only there was band in my high school. Like of course we didn't have band. There's like 90 students in my high school.
You didn't have band?
No, like of course we didn't. We didn't even have calculus. Why would we have band?
My school was also like 90 people, and we had a band. We just sucked. Like it was fine. Like you can have a band with 90 kids. Like no, you just let everybody in.
I'm not saying like the number of kids was the problem. The problem was like there's no resources, there's no teachers.
Oh, there was no teacher who was going to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So there's my why me again. But like like this like lack of opportunity has sort of, I don't know, haunted me in a way my whole life. Like I feel like I responded to this prompt in a very impassioned way, and I feel like that hints that like that why me is still not gone. But I had some blocks about like singing. Like when I was a kid, I used to like sing all the time, and like I would ask my parents like, oh dude, like I just like they would say like, oh, I overheard you singing, and I'd be like, oh, did you like it? Like I thought it was really good. And they were like, no. Like that's all I remember from that. And like I know. So I didn't sing as an adult for a really long time. But then like so once I started to dive into this thing, I realized like I actually did open a lot of doors for myself that I like that were closed, like because of some sort of inner drive to do this thing. Like I eventually I wanted to be able to just sing in my apartment out loud. And I like couldn't. Like if Greg was there, I like wouldn't say anything because it's too scary. So I enrolled in voice lessons. I was right at the end of my degree. I enrolled in some voice lessons. It was so uncomfortable to even open my mouth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was It was physically painful. It was physically like I wouldn't want to say anything. She was so kind. She was like the most wonderful voice teacher ever, and it was really painful. But she broke, like I did a concert that I blacked out of my memory that I just remembered now. Like I sang a song in front of people. It was a whole thing. And then I joined a choir. I was in a really small pop choir for a short time. And then I was in a couple choirs. Okay, this is all coming back to me. I was in a couple choirs. I joined a ukulele band. Like I started a ukulele band. We were called the Strap-Ons, and we sang and we danced. It was
I can't believe you never told me that before.
It was like this beautiful outlet that I found anyway.
Yeah.
And like I always wanted to be able to improvise like on the piano. When I saw other people doing it, it made me feel like hurt because I felt like I just couldn't, and it was something that I wanted to do, but I felt like, why me? Because I never had access to it. And then I realized like what happened was I went around and did another way. Like I started tap lessons when we moved to Montreal, and the thing that I have been like passionately following, like sure, I'll learn a routine, like fine, but what I really want is I want to be in a jam circle, and I want to be uncomfortable, and I want somebody to show me, like I'm chasing these opportunities for people to show me this thing that I've always wanted to know. And like I didn't, before she asked that question, like, or before she sort of talked about those things, I hadn't realized that has come from that has come a long way with me.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. That's a lot to take in.
Sorry. I know. I feel like I've been talking for like 30 minutes.
No, that's okay. I'm so sorry. I just got distracted again because my mom was yelling at me.
Oh, no.
Okay, no, she's not coming, but she did call my name. I'm so sorry. So once again, I got distracted.
You know what?
Oh, no.
I get it.
Yeah.
I think there's something hard about sharing space, trying to,
totally.
Do work.
Yeah. The thing that I wanted to say is that I think tracks kind of perfectly onto the things that I was thinking about this week. There's a little nugget of what you said that really resonated with me about like for example, I say to myself, I could be an actor now, but I'm not, because in high school I had to choose between math, music, or art, music, and drama. And because of that, I'm not an actor today. Or like I wanted to be in a guitar band, but I'm not, because I had to choose. And things like, I wanted to be a singer, but my singing lessons wasn't really in the cards for me as a kid and stuff like that. So as I was going through The Artist's Way this week, she talks about the 5 imaginary lives, or 5 other lives that you would lead, which was the task that you told me about before, that I was like, oh my god, I want this book. And so I did this task, which is if you had 5 other lives to lead, what would they be? And just like have fun with it. Like, just what are things that are fun to you? Like, what would you be? And mine was like, I would be a singer in a pop band, I would be a travel writer, I would be a kindergarten teacher, I would own a small farm, or I would be an actor.
Wow.
And it really got me down. Like, it's not supposed to. It's supposed to be a fun task, but it really got me down because I was like, I'm not all these things. Like, I'm not a lead singer in a pop band because I just didn't have, like back when I was 20 and I lived in a house with my friends with all our instruments, we just didn't prioritize it. Like, we were like, yeah, we're going to be a band, but we never fucking wrote any songs. And then, like, I don't own a small farm because I don't have, millions of dollars to buy a small farm. And I'm not an actor because I had to choose, and I chose music. So, like, I was also, like, going through my head and, like, feeling all of these excuses come up.
Wow.
And that's not to say that, like, these aren't valid. Like, they happened. Like, that's just the way that my life went, right? Mm-hmm. But, it took me really neatly into week 2, where she says, creative blocks often manifest as an addiction to fantasy. And she talks about, like, so she says, rather than working or living in the now, we spin our wheels and indulge in daydreams of what could have, would have, should have been. And I feel like that is a huge thing for me, where it's like, all the time, I think, if I were 18, how would I do it differently? If I were 18, wow, I wouldn't go to university. I would, get a job at a cafe and just, like, really work on playing the guitar. Or I would, look into drama school and go to drama school or something like that. Like, I'm always wishing that I could have a do-over. And wow, so I'm, like, constantly living in the past. So it's I feel like it's similar to your, like, why me thing. Like, I'm 30, I'm not at the ideal age, in my mind, this is what I tell myself. I'm not at the ideal age to start any of these things. I've already sunk a lot of costs into schooling for a certain profession. Like, I have all these, like, why me's that are, like, really, really intense for me a lot of the time. But then Julia, sweet Julia, says you have to pay attention to the now. Like, week 2, there's this whole section called paying attention. And it resonated so wonderfully with me because I am just like, I'm living in the past, like, really, and, like, really badly. Yeah, she says, creative life actually involves lots of attention, and attention is an act of connection. And she says, in times of pain, when the future is too terrifying to contemplate, and the past too painful to remember, pay attention to right now. In the exact now, we are all always all right. And I was like, whoa, Julia. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow, what a gift she gives. Hey.
She's such a gift. Oh my God. And so, like, I feel like that's, or maybe I'm just deluding myself, but I feel like that's related to what you said, where it's like, what next? So, yes, maybe I'm 30 now. But that's, like, it doesn't help me to just look back and think, what should I have done? Like, I have to work with, where am I right now and what's next? And that's a really exciting question. And it's really, like, the idea of, like, doors opening if you want them to, basically, is a really exciting idea, I think.
Yeah. It feels much more, like, abundant, and there's much more, like, possibility.
Yeah. And it's, like, it's interesting to be, like, okay, if I divided all of my creative, like, the things that nourish me creatively, which for me is, like, a lot. Like, I'm not, like, a painter or a writer. I'm, like, I love to paint, I love to draw, I love to write, I love to sing, I love to act. Like, I kind of love doing it all. And so, like, to think, like, it's kind of crazy to think, like, even if I could do it over, I wouldn't want to pick just one. Like, if I had a do-over and I went to drama school and I became an actor, I would, probably still be sitting here at age 30 wishing I had another do-over so I could like, yeah, do another of the things, right?
That's right. That's, so, like, a really interesting perspective.
Yeah, so, like, a do-over, like, I would like to stop dreaming about a do-over because it's not, it's a fantasy that wouldn't actually solve any of my problems. Wow. And, yeah, and I think it's really nice, the idea that, like, I can find ways to sort of, like, incorporate all of these different imaginary lives into the life that I have. Like, maybe I'm not gonna own a farm, like, I want to farm.
Like a full-on farm.
Full-on farm. Maybe I'm not going to have that, but I could have 2 rabbits and 3 chickens, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm not going to be a singer, like a famous singer, but I can still like write songs and put them online even if nobody listens, right? Like I can still do the things.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's such a like that. I feel like the other way of looking at it is such a block. Like it cuts it off and it's like, I guess it's over for me now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you had that experience with the 5 Other Lives. Like I had a different feeling from it. I don't know if we've ever talked about it.
No.
Like my 5 Other Lives sort of, it set me free in like a different way. And I know you said it really brought you down, but I feel like being able to move forward and say like, oh, actually, like these 5 things that I love and am interested in, like I can take pieces of them and put them into my life. Like I feel like that's sort of setting you free in some sort of way, maybe. And I feel like for me, I picked things that I always sort of thought that I would do or be. Like I picked like, okay, I'll be a dancer at a some sort of club. Like I'll dance for money. Like
Hot.
not necessarily an I know, totally hot. Not necessarily like an exotic dancer, but maybe like a chorus girl or like a tap dancer or like that kind of stuff that I like. So that was one of them. I picked like a pilot, a farmer, and a paramedic. And I think
both
a
wanted
lot
to be farmers.
I know. There's something so wholesome about the idea of farming. But like I like those, like fleshing out those lives and like thinking in detail about like maybe just a paragraph about each one really made me realize like that I sort of wanted some of them for the wrong reasons in a way. Like I wanted like certain things because I felt like they were glamorous, but when I thought about the life that I would lead, it's so different from what I actually want. Yeah. Like for me, like being a pilot, I don't really have a super big desire to like learn all this stuff. Like I don't know if I would like flying. Like I feel like that would be really scary, but my dad really likes it, and like so maybe in that way I would like it. And I like there's all of these stories, like our house is full of, like my parents' house is full of books of pilots and like all of these fantastic stories of like people who crashed and like survived all this stuff. And like what I want out of that is like, one, some sort of glamorous reputation for being able to think on my feet and like being able to improvise again. Like I just always want to be okay. I think that's why I want to be able to improvise. So like that's what I wanted out of that. But when I thought of like, okay, well, if you're a pilot, if you're like a bush pilot, which is what I would want, I would be flying hunters out, and I don't really want to do that. And like I might be shipping, I don't know. So I just couldn't fit myself into
that's really interesting. Just to add, Mitch's dad was a bush pilot for a lot of his life, and most of what he did was flying oil workers out to the oil fields. So I don't know if I'm just putting this story on his name, but like he kind of like wanted to be, it's cool, I'm going to be a pilot. And then he ended up sort of like working for an industry that he really didn't
believe in.
Yeah. So for you, it was like
realizing that I didn't actually want the lives that I thought I wanted, especially like also for paramedic. Like when I was a kid, not I guess a kid, but like when I was in university, I used to work at the ambulance for the summers and stuff. Like I had this whole, like I was an ambulance attendant, and I wasn't like a paramedic, but I was like a driver, and I like would go in the back and like whatever. I was like a first aid person. That was like my thing. But like I always thought, so when my tech career didn't really pan out like I thought it would, I always kind of fantasized about coming back home and picking up the threads of the life that I had, like to be involved in the community again, which I've always really cared about. Like I think that's my true path, is like a community builder. I feel like that would be the most fulfilling life I could lead. But like I always thought that I was going to go back to school maybe, and like I had looked up schools to go to, and like I was like, oh yeah, like I could pay my last like I don't know $10,000 to take this course, like make a bid on a new life sort of. So it was kind of a relief to do that 5 Lives exercise and be like, oh, like actually that's not the life for me and I can let it go. Finally. After
That's
10 years of
amazing.
like dreaming of sort of picking back up where I left off, like I can just finally move on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so good. So we both got something really good out of it, but in like
Yeah.
completely different ways.
Yeah.
That's so interesting,
Mm-hmm.
if I may say so.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too.
Yeah, okay, good. Oh my god. Yeah, so I'm so hungry.
Mm. Okay.
So if I could let you go.
Okay.
I really hope that the audio works out this week.
Me too. Okay, bye.
Bye!